Hi. Just school board, Sarah does a phenomenal job with the gymnasts. It's an extremely technical sport, and the fact that she basically manages the teams for both Mountain View and Los Altos and keeps it together and does a great job. Sarah deserves a lot of the recognition for that team's success. And then next, what I'd like to do is introduce our varsity baseball team, which was coached by Jeff Schwann this year. Our baseball team, I'm most proud of them because they came together this year. They've had a rough patch the last couple of years. We had a coaching change right before the season, the year before last, and it kind of disrupted the flow of their season. And they came back very, very determined this year to kind of be who they thought they were going to be. You're looking at a group of players up here. A number of them are going to be playing baseball in college. 2 of them already signed Division I letters of intent. So this is a group that saw a lot of personal growth and team growth this year. And a lot of that was a testament to the coaching staff led by Jeff Schwann, assisted by Ricky Diaz and Josh Longabaugh, who handled our pitchers. And I'll let Jeff talk about his players and introduce them.
Hey everybody, thank you for having us. These are my guys. I'll have Liam come introduce them here in a little bit. But to speak on our season a little bit, we have 12 seniors. So it's a lot of personalities, a lot of fighting for playing time, a lot of events, a lot of sicknesses this year, right? But we fought through all that to have a great, successful season. We competed really heavily in league. We beat Los Altos, which is always important. And then once it got to playoff time, we got hot, which if you know anything about sports, that's the time to get hot. And no matter what division we were in, I don't think anybody in CCS wanted to play us come playoff time. When we really made it known that we were there to do a job, and these guys came together at the right time, worked their butts off in practices, and accomplished what they set their minds to, which was really early in the season. They had a goal, and they didn't let anything get in their way. I couldn't be prouder of these guys. So let's give them a round of applause. Our captain, Liam, will introduce all our players.
Hi, my name is it Mike Solon? My name is Liam Barrett. I'm one of the captains on the team. I'm going to play baseball at UC Santa Barbara next year, and all of these guys, I just want to thank everyone here for just teaching me how to be a better captain and a better person overall. I mean, it's a long season, and obviously we got a lot better connecting as a family and getting better as baseball players, but also getting better as young men. And I want to thank our coaches because the whole year they were just telling us to trust their process and trust what they had for us. And there was a lot at the beginning of the season. There was a lot of bickering and a lot of headbutting, but we all came together at the end and brought our trophy home. So. We got Kyle Shakal, Alan Beer, Mitchell Garcia, Andrew Kobar, Christian Wanks, Antonio Peoples, Clayto White, Christian Bandy, River Jones, Wesley Harwell, Kevin Conway, Luke Orrock, Jaden, say your last name, please. Chase Carangella, Ethan Gillamett, Austin Sue, Dylan Wanks, Rudra. I'm not going to say his last name either. It's hard. And Brendan Dooley. So thank you guys. Thank you guys. Hey guys. Thank you.
Thanks again for the baseball team. And next up is Michelle Noeth from Los Altos.
All right. So my group is a little smaller, but that's okay. So I do want to thank Dr. Myers for inviting us to be here tonight to recognize our athletes who qualified for state. Because of finals, a lot of them were not able to be here tonight, but we still want to make sure that we recognize all of them. But first, I also want to recognize Sarah Wallace, if she come on in. You saw her earlier tonight being recognized for CCS championship team for gymnastics, but she's also the CCS honor coach for Los Altos. And since she's a dual coach, then she gets recognized in both limelights. So Sarah, congratulations and thank you for all you do for both high schools for gymnastics. So tonight I want to introduce quickly our people that we have here. We have a couple of people here from swim and also one from track and field. We have Sam Lyon and Tommy Carnes. They were part of the 200 medley relay and the 200 free relay. The 200 free relay, they won CCS, and that comprises Sam Lyon, Tommy Carnes, Isaac Shang, and Trent Stigna. So those are our two gentlemen to the far right of me. And then for track, we have Max Morel, who competed in the shot put and qualified for state meet. Those that were not able to be here tonight, but I didn't want to be amiss of not recognizing them, was Marin Byrne, who was a 200 IM and she won the state meet. Isaac Shang, our 50 free, girls 200 free relay, Maya Bomberg, Ariana Yatrenko, Sophia Boschkin, and Marin Byrne. And for track and field, Nathaniel Guillory, who qualified in both 100 and 200 and placed third overall at the state meet in the 200. Jasleen Sadu in the 3200, Daniela Hughes in the triple jump, Lily Simon in the 800, and then we had 3 relay teams that all qualified for the state meet for track and field. 4x100 relay was Jalen Dotson, Daniela Hughes, Ali Hepworth, and Anya Vaswani. For the girls 4x8 relay was Emma Lewis, Maddie Ross, Sammy Patel, and Lily Simon. And for the girls 4x400 relay, Emma Lewis, Lily Simon, Anya Vaswani, and Maddie Ross. So again, thank you so much for having us here tonight. I would say the highlight of their season was just having the opportunity to compete, excel in their events, and hitting those PRs throughout the season. And again, making that next step to compete at the state level. So thank you.
Amazing accomplishments. Everybody on the list that you mentioned. I mean, I was thinking about the Summer Olympics this year. Everybody must be pretty excited about that. So it's like a lot of good inspiration there. So thank you for coming. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. All right, next we have 9.2 resolution 23/24-56, declaring June 2024 to be lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer Pride Month.
All right, well, thank you very much. I would like to recommend the approval of resolution 23/24-56, declaring June 23rd to be lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer Pride Month. And it is as follows. Whereas it is a policy of the Mountain View Los Altos High School District that all persons, including those who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer, have an equal and non-discriminatory opportunity to a quality public educational experience. And whereas many lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer youth and youth perceived to belong to these groups still face harassment and physical violence in communities. And whereas the 2018 California Health Healthy Kids survey reported that 46% of LGBTQ youth have seriously considered suicide in the last 12 months, as compared to 15% of non-LGBTQ youth. And the 2018 Human Rights Campaign youth report found that just one accepting adult can reduce the risk of suicide risk among LGBTQ young people by 40%. And whereas the Mountain View Los Altos School District deplores harassment and physical violence or threat of such against any of our students, faculty, and staff, and whereas MVLA Board of Trustees believes the rich diversity of families and communities is one of MVLA district's strengths, and furthermore believes that a family is a supportive unit composed of various genders, orientations, cultures, races, and ethnicities. And whereas the Mountain View Los Altos High School Board of Trustees celebrates, values, and welcomes the diversity of our student body, our teachers, our staff, and our administrators, including the diversity of sexual orientation and identity in our community. And whereas the MVLA School Board of Trustees has made a commitment to achieving and fostering diversity and acceptance in our staff, our school population, and in our curriculum. And whereas the MVLA high school district's adopted curriculum materials comply with the FAIR Act, ensuring all groups, including LGBTQ plus community, are represented fairly and accurately. And whereas the Mountain View Los Altos School Board wishes to note the variety of celebrations recognizing lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer Pride Month around the nation and throughout the state of California during the month of June. And if approved, may it be resolved that the MVLA High School Board of Trustees and MVLA High School District proclaim June 2024 Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, and Queer Plus Pride Month, and will fly a rainbow flag at each school and facility within the Mountain View Los Altos High School District throughout the month of June and honestly throughout the year to signify our support. Recommended for approval on June 3rd, 2024.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer.
Thank you.
So any questions or comments?
I move that we adopt resolution 23/24-56. I just want to add a comment to that. I have been reading recently a lot of science articles on gender, and it turns out there's a substantial amount of science to back up the notion that gender is fluid and that there are many different kinds. And I think it's about time that we try to introduce some of the science into our school curriculum so that students can have a better appreciation for what is going on in their own bodies and in the bodies of their fellow students.
Excellent point. Thank you.
Any comment or a second?
I just want to second Phil's comments, and I also want to say that I think we strive hard to provide a supportive environment for all of our students, but we understand that that the community as a whole, as Dr. Meyer referenced, is not supportive of our LGBTQ youth, and so we need to work extra hard to combat that lack of support elsewhere.
Your second Phil's motion, right?
And I'm seconding Phil's motion.
I said confirm it, right?
So both.
She said that first.
Yeah, well, you're seconding your comments. I want to make sure you second the motion too. I do it. So, all right, wonderful. So, moved by Phil, seconded by Theta. All those in favor? Aye. The motion passes 4-0. Wonderful. All right, next is 10.0 Student of the Month. So this is a recognition of the June 2024 Adult Transition Program Student of the Month. Oh, did we? Yeah, no, but this is for Student of the Month.
Okay, but they're not on the agenda. They're not on the agenda.
All four.
Yeah, the visitors, but we can just.
Oh, I was gonna do that. I was gonna do that yet after.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Right, next. Good evening, board members, the MVLA administrative staff,
parents, students, and distinguished guests. I'm standing here today because I have the honor to introduce the next guest, as he is this year's Student of the Year recipient from our very own MVLA Adult Transition Program. I would like to start with, what does Puffy Pig, Frankie the Frog, Dave Cat, Sherlock Dog, Kyle, Sid, Stella, and Pepe all have in common? Well, they are all characters in Jonathan's book. Jonathan is a very talented and accomplished young man with publishing credit as an author and illustrator of not one, but 3 books called The Magic Pencil, The Lost Penguin from Antarctica, The Pepe Trilogy, The Rise of the Pepe Book 1, and he's currently working on book number 2. I can't wait to find out what Pepe is going to do next, down on Amazon. Okay. Jonathan is enthusiastic about art and generous in his praise of other people's art. He is a paragon of team spirit. He comes to school with clear intent to have good interaction with everybody and brighten the mood in any room. If you know Jonathan, you would know that he embodies such a calm and steady presence and treat everyone with kindness and respect. It has been our pleasure to work with a student who sincerely tries his best every day in the program. Whether we are doing academic work, practicing life skills, Jonathan is quite handy in the kitchen as well. Doing art, working out, or going to work in local businesses, Jonathan gives excellent effort. Jonathan also has a strong work ethic. He is eager to learn new tasks and has the endurance and focus to work efficiently and effectively in any organization task in the business of our community partners. When faced with challenges, Jonathan keeps a positive attitude and willing to accept corrective direction. It's a pleasure working with a student who has such a strong sense of community spirit. For the coming year, Jonathan has been accepted into the Wayfinders program at Fresno State University. We are confident that he will be embarking on a beautiful new chapter, making people smile and changing lives for the better. Congratulations, parents and Jonathan.
I just want to say that I can feel his kindness from over here. It was just, see, I just felt it, that I can feel, yeah, you're up there. I feel the kindness that he has. Yeah, that's wonderful. That's my congratulations. So, like, take a picture. Wonderful. You have family? Yeah, this family right here. Okay, so next on the agenda, a couple of items. One, the first one we'd like to do is we'd like to have appreciation for Dr. Nellie Meyer. And I know we have a few people that have come here to speak. So first is Nicholas Hargis, Senior Field Representative for Congresswoman Anna Eshoo.
Good evening, board. Thank you for having us this evening. I would like to read a letter from Congresswoman Eshoo to Dr. Meyer. Dear Dr. Meyer, congratulations on your retirement as superintendent of the Mountain View Los Altos High School District. And thank you for your more than 35 years of superb service in education. As a strong and effective leader, you navigated the district through the challenges of virtual learning, worked to expand career technical education programs, and oversaw large-scale construction projects on district campuses. To honor you and your leadership, I've enclosed a Congressional Certificate of Special Recognition. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to call up Leslie Bolbuck, Senior Field Representative Office for the Assemblyman Mark Berman. Did I pronounce that right? Sorry if I nailed it. Yeah, okay.
Hi, my name is Leslie Bulbuck, and I'm a senior field rep for Assemblymember Mark Berman. And it's really an honor to be here this evening to celebrate you, Dr. Meyer, as you embark on the next adventure in your life. And thank you so much for the service to the school district. I have a small certificate today, but it's only because a much larger resolution got kind of waylaid in Sacramento due to too many resolutions having to be created for this week. But as soon as that arrives, I will reach out and see how I can get it to you. So thank you so very much on behalf of Assemblymember Mark Berman for all of your hard work and dedication to serving the community and the students of Mountain View Los Altos School District.
Next is our very own Mayor of Mountain View, Pat Showalter.
Hello, everybody. It's an honor to be here. And I wanted to come in person to thank Nellie Meyer for the wonderful service she has given to our community and to wish her the best of luck in retirement. And to just say that I hope you're better at the retirement part than I am. Anyway, but the other reason I wanted to talk here is to emphasize the importance of the collaboration that we have with the Mountain View Los Altos School District and the City of Mountain View. Our constituents are much the same people, and it's just, and they always will be. So it's vital that we work together for the good of our joint community. And you have just made that very easy to do. You've been wonderful to work for and with, and you just have a sterling reputation. So thank you for all that you have done to earn that reputation and for the collaboration that you've done with the City of Mountain View. It's much appreciated.
Okay, next I'd like to turn to the board, see if there's anything they'd like to say. Bill, you'll go first.
I'd be happy to say a few words. So I had the privilege of being the board president when we hired Dr. Meyer. And I recall telling her in about August of that first year, August of 2019, this is going to be your honeymoon year. It's a time for you to get to know people and to understand the workings of the district. And don't worry, there are problems, but I'm sure nothing is going to come up that you can't handle. Well, I was right about the last part because something did come up, COVID-19 pandemic and the George Floyd killings. So we had the turmoil of a medical and a social crisis simultaneously. And that has changed the course of education since then. It's different now than it was in all the years before. And we were very lucky, actually it was our skill in hiring, to have Dr. Meyer at the helm. She led us through the pandemic. And I want to remind you all of the great anxiety we felt when we watched on television in March of 2020, hospitals with freezer trucks outside to hold the cadavers of people who had died from the pandemic, and their ICUs were overflowing. There was no more room in the hospital. It was a time of tremendous anxiety. And Nellie was a comforting voice through that. She had the confidence of DTA. We very quickly arrived at a memorandum of understanding that carried us through the pandemic. I also want to remind you of how antsy parents got, quite understandably, because their kids were around 24 hours a day. And there was a lot of tension towards the end about when were we going back to school. And Nellie did her best, and she managed to keep everybody within limits. Everybody was saying a little more than they usually did, but nobody got too far off the beaten track. And teachers went back. They went back because Nellie and the administration under her did everything possible to make these schools as safe as they could possibly be for students and teachers. And I think everybody understood that. We had every prophylactic available. We had new ventilation in all of our buildings. Everything was done for safety of students and teachers. And that's how it should be. And it showed. And we have gotten back on track since that time. Nellie has made new improvements. You can see our graduate profile on the wall. That's something we're proud of and we're going to build toward. And I want to say that I look back at our first evaluation, that first evaluation I wrote of you. And one of the things we do in our evaluations is we ask the people who report directly to Nellie how things are going with Nellie in the central office. And some of the comments I got were just tremendous. Nellie listens. She takes the time to listen to us. She thinks deeply about what we say. She just doesn't say something to get us out of the office. And one person wrote, and this copies my own feelings, she is one of the two best superintendents with whom I've worked. And the person who wrote that was a real veteran here. So had worked with 5 superintendents. And I come close to that. I've worked with 4. And I have that same sentiment. And I'll say the same thing about Nellie that I said when that other superintendent retired. And when on occasions like this, I think of Isaac Newton's words when he talked about his accomplishments. And he wrote to a fellow scientist, Robert Hooke, also a great scientist, not quite of Newton's stature. And Newton wrote to Hooke, "If I have seen further than other men, it is because I have stood on the shoulders of giants." Mr. Volta, our new superintendent, you have the privilege of standing on the shoulder of a giant in Nellie Meyer. She might look small, but don't let her fool you. Thank you, Nellie. We're really going to miss you.
Thank you. Thank you, Phil.
Sure. So Nellie, as I say to my brother and sister, you're my favorite. She's the only superintendent I've worked with, so she can be my favorite until Eric, you come, and then we'll see if you're my favorite. But actually, just to give you an idea of Nellie's, who Nellie is when I was thinking about becoming a trustee, I thought, I should find out, because I'm not the kind of parent who goes to the superintendent or even the principal. So I thought I should see if I could meet with Nellie. And she not only met with me, but we met for about an hour. And in that hour, I found out that she and I share very similar values. And also, Nellie has a very keen intellect, and we discussed a wide range of issues. In fact, it was sort of like, okay, I've got to make sure I don't exceed my time here because, she has other people to talk to. But Nellie really has the ability to deeply listen. She is very compassionate, very collaborative, and in all her decisions, she's also very deliberative and calm. And the way that she has led this school district, I think, has really set the tone for the board as well. And I also just, it's been such a privilege to see it, you know, in the time that I've been a trustee, which has not been 5 years, sadly, to see the changes that you have made, particularly CTE pathways, and also just really working on our mental health issues and really looking at ways for how we can connect with students and looking at also just the many challenges that have come up. I wasn't here during the pandemic, but there have been many other challenges. And what I will also say is that you have hired a really amazing team of people to work with. And I came to my first board meeting, and my first board meeting was a personnel issue. And so you can imagine I come in and it's this long-standing thing, which I won't go into. But I was very, very impressed with both Nellie's conduct and also the investigation. And I thought, and also how both sides were presented to me in a very fair and empathetic way. And I feel that is how Nellie approaches all issues. She always looks for, you know, how can I see the other person's point of view? And I think that has really helped her connect with a number of people in the community, with students, and with staff. And I think that's why we're going to miss you so much. We understand why you have to go, but it's like, could you just stay another 5 years?
So I echo many of the sentiments already shared. When first getting elected, one of the first times I spent the most time with you, Nellie, was at the CSBA conference. And I remember just, you know, walking from session to session, and the times I was with Nellie, it was like walking with a celebrity. Everyone knows Nellie, and Nellie introduced me to a bunch of people, and it was very clear that Nellie is well connected and an influential leader in this field. And I don't have as much experience with MVLA with the number of superintendents, but I will say that outside of the board, I have worked with several superintendents and assistant superintendents, and all roads seem to lead back to Nellie. Everyone knows Nellie. So again, just speaks to your leadership in the field. And when also talking to other staff about Nellie's leadership, one of the words that most stood out was mentorship. And, you know, mentorship, I think, is really hard to establish because it's such a strategic way to really influence the direction of a team, of a district. And the fact that that was like the sentiment that kept coming up, again, really speaks to your leadership, your influence, your stamp that you're leaving on MVLA. And I just always appreciate the conversations we've had, how approachable and accessible you are, and calm and collected, as I'm sure you've navigated many things in your last 5 years here. And also someone who clearly has held every role, I think, and title possible within education. So thank you, Nellie, for all your service.
Thank you. I have a few words to say. So back in 2019, we were in search of a new superintendent. So we needed a strong leader who could drive meaningful change in our district, a leader who would maintain a clear focus on student achievement while also prioritizing student wellness and fostering strong relationships with teachers, staff, and the community. We found all this and more in Dr. Nellie Meyer. So we've come full circle with Nellie, and this is where I disagree with you, Phil. We come full circle with Nellie this time in our district. I had the privilege of serving on the board president during her first full year and wrote her first evaluation. You need to check your notes, Phil. So do you recall what I wrote in that first in that evaluation? I compared our experience on the Miracle on the Hudson. So this was year 2019, 2020. So this is that school year where we first got into COVID. And so I compared the experience to Miracle on the Hudson. So instead of being hit by a flock of geese, we faced the COVID-19 pandemic. Instead of losing 2 engines, we were ordered shelter in place and quickly implement a distance learning plan. And just as Flight 1549 had Captain Sully, we had Dr. Nellie Meyer. It was a difficult time, but because of your leadership, we endured and are a stronger district because of it. I also wrote that before school closures and the uncertainty surrounding COVID-19, Nellie's calm and steady demeanor prevented panic and created an atmosphere where teachers and staff felt cared for, ensuring we stayed on top of our ever-changing school district requirements. And this is what we needed, and Nellie delivered. So since that eventful year, Nellie's accomplished far numerous, but I wanted to put a top 10 list together. So number one is and this is almost in the order in which we experienced her superintendent tenure here. So her MVLA update newsletters. So that set a tone of inclusivity and openness with our community. It's something we didn't have before Dr. Meyer was here. She created a wellness coordinator position focusing on student wellness and successfully opened wellness centers on every campus. She established the Equity Alliance Steering Committee, a major request from teachers, staff, and the community, allowing all voices to be heard. She expanded the middle college program. She revamped our district website. She created the Family Partnership Council, ensuring that all groups were represented. She introduced the well-regarded graduate profile, which became the envy of many other districts. She established a student advisory council, and then her leadership in various councils and coalitions, including the Executive Council of Superintendents, the High School Coalition, the Santa Clara Superintendents, and the Northern California Superintendents Council, and the Schools for Safe Finance Executive. It elevated our district profile at the county, the Bay Area, and state level. And of course, her hiring of 2 superb principals, Kip and Tracy, along with the promotions of Julie at the adult school and Suzanne at Alta Vista. So this couldn't have been better for our district, and we're very, very happy about that. On a personal note, I want to thank you, Nellie, for your wisdom and friendship over the past 5 years. I've learned a tremendous amount about school districts, high school education from our regular conversations. I wish you the very best in your retirement and all your future endeavors. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay. Next, I'm going to introduce our new superintendent, and then we'll take about a 15-minute recess and have a little meet and greet. So I'd like to introduce Eric Volta. Eric, would you like to come up? So as a board, we are pleased to introduce Eric Volta of the Mountain View Los Altos to the staff and to the community. Eric grew up in Santa Clara Valley and attended Santa Clara High School. He graduated from Stanford with concentration in history, as well as being a 4-year letterman on the football team. You can tell us the story maybe afterwards.
No stories tonight.
No stories, all right. He taught 9th through 12th grade in advanced placement for ELL courses. He was vice principal at Santa Clara High School before moving to Brentwood to serve in Liberty Union High School District as high school AP principal and assistant superintendent. He was promoted to superintendent in Liberty High School in 2011. He has received numerous recognitions and awards, including AXA Region 6 Superintendent of the Year, California Department of Education Outstanding Principal Award, and California Interscholastic Federation Distinguished Service Award. He is currently on the board of the Northern California High School Coalition and is active in Rotary. Big plus. Eric brings a wealth of experience in all aspects of high school and district leadership. The MVLA began a nationwide search to replace Dr. Nellie Meyer in March, and the board hopes you will join us in welcoming Eric Volta as our new superintendent on July 1st. Thank you very much.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the board for entrusting their district to me for the next few years. 5, 10, whatever it takes. Phil, I couldn't echo your statements more. One of the reasons why this was such a desirable job was because of Nellie, and I'd be taking her place. And I've known Nellie now for 9 years. And when I heard that she was retiring and she was leaving her district, that'd be a perfect district to go into because she's such a superb educator, not just superintendent, but educator, teacher, colleague, mentor. She's all of that. And I agree with all of your thoughts that you said earlier. I'm excited. I'm excited to join MVLA. As Sanjay was saying, I'm coming home. I first was in this boardroom back in the 80s as a student at Santa Clara High School as a rep to the Board of Managers. Coached on your fields, played on your fields, know a little bit about the history here. Everything that I've learned about the district in the last few months has been extremely positive and had an extremely positive day here, getting to know some of the people. So I'm really excited to be joining the team. Thank you.
Well, please join us for refreshments out here in the lobby, and we'll break for 15 minutes. Great, thank you.
Thank you all.
And I didn't even talk about Sandy or walk around Sandy.
Yeah, I got Tita lost. I did a 5 mile at CSBA. We couldn't find the luncheon.
It was the best. Like I was spent time.
Yeah.
Have to do it again anytime.
I always say I know one direction. Not mentally. Physically.
Bring the board meeting back to order here. And so before we close out the 11.0, I'd like to get a vote from the board on the contract for the new superintendent. So first, I'd like to have a motion. Moved by Phil, second by Esme. All right, any comments or questions? Nope. All those in favor? All right, passes 4-0. Thank you. All right, on to the next item, board member reports. Any board member reports? Nope. Okay, on to superintendent report.
All right, well, I just have a few brief remarks, and I do not have a slideshow, even though now that you've complimented me on it, I feel somewhat remiss. But I did want to just say a few thank yous and just express my gratitude during this period of time. I wanted to start with, oftentimes superintendents work with boards, and we always talk about being a board team, but it really is a rare thing to work so collaboratively with the superintendent and board team. And I feel very fortunate that we have that ability, and through the last 5 years, to think together, to disagree sometimes, to have good conversations, and to express different points of view. And so throughout the 5 years, I just want to thank each and every one of you for being such strong teammates. I so much appreciate it. And I've said this before, but working for other boards, they don't always read the materials. I don't say this too often. I won't say where or whom, but as a board, you always work so hard at your due diligence, and former board members as well, making sure you go through, you have questions, you have observations, you have suggestions, and it's just so invigorating and refreshing to have that level of engagement. So I do want to thank the president when I was hired, the president during the pandemic, the soon-to-be president, and the soon-to-be president after that, and also Catherine Vonnegut, who was also president during my time here, for all of your support. Really could not have done it without you, and so all those things are such a big part of that. And then there's other people here who I want to make sure. I was talking outside to someone, and I said, as we were going through that list, we got to this number, and I said, well, that was with the help of William, the wellness centers. And when we got to number 3, that was with the help of Terry. And when they spoke of construction, that was with Mike. And when they spoke about making this climate of supporting all people empathetically and courageously, that was with Layla. And then also looking at coming through cyber times and cyber attacks and virtual school, that was with Bob and his team as well. And so through no small effort of the district office team, also with a new addition of Amy as well, it's just really been like she's been there the whole time. And so just a tremendous effort on all the parts of the people who are here. And so thank each and every one of you for helping these top 10 be created. I really appreciate it. Want to also say I'm really pleased, President Dave, that you mentioned hiring such fantastic principals and leaders within our district. The high school principal job, I used to say it's almost as hard as the superintendent job, but that's reversed a little bit on many days, most days. And I just want to say that our high school principals, alternative ed principal, they are just so professional and intelligent and smart. And really the word that comes to mind is courageous, but also I would say creative. And so I admire both those things, especially when they're together. And so thank you.
One person I realized I forgot. But
is it this person?
And the other person you promoted was Terry Font.
Yes.
And I want to recognize that as well. That was just a superb recognition, and very, very happy with that. Appreciate it very much.
Yes, it was kind of, fortuitous from my standpoint to have the opportunity to find strong people. And as you said, mentor and develop, that's my favorite thing to do. And so I really appreciate that opportunity. So thank you to our strong principals. And then she's not here, but our director of adult education. The work they do at adult ed is miraculous. And it's just so professionally done. I thought you were going to mention
Well, I
that.
mentioned.
You
yes,
did,
I
okay.
Yeah.
So thank you to them. I know they're getting ready for their graduation ceremony tomorrow night. So really excited about that. A lot of thanks. 36 years is a long time, and it really honestly starting in my teens as an instructional assistant, it's more. But there's so many things that have happened along the way, and education has changed so much. And so I want to say congratulations to Eric Volta. Eric, when I was in Contra Costa County, he was already a superintendent in that county, and they made us do an activity where we all had to line up by who was there the longest. And I think there's only one that has been there. There were three in front of me, Eric being one of them, and then two others, and they're both still there, but everyone else changed. So the continuity, I know, Eric, that it takes to sustain the role of superintendent says a lot about what you're going to bring here. So thank you for that. And I know you're going to do a great job. So it's good to see you in this role. Also wanted to say the community, the PTSA, the foundation, the parents, everyone who's a part of the work that we do really speaks to the optimism our community has for the future, the investment that they put in all of our students, and the fact that they know that investment is going to pay off. The disagreements, as you mentioned, didn't get too much, but I think they're healthy. I think they mean that we need to think about what we're doing and just consider all options. So I welcome those conversations and really appreciate how I think that makes us get better. Now, would I like everyone to do it perhaps in a more delicate, empathetic way? Yes. But I do believe that it's important and it's healthy for all of us to do that. So lastly, I know I'm leaving someone out, but what I want to say is I'm going to show this to my mother and my sister. I don't think my husband necessarily will watch it, but my daughter may. I'm going to have to see. Maybe on my birthday we'll bring it out, because what you said was just so lovely. And just a tribute to who you are, intelligent, engaged, and it's just been a pleasure. So thank you, all of you, and I will miss this chair, but I know if Eric is standing on my shoulders, I'll be even lower. I do just appreciate everything that you've done. So thank you. That is my superintendent report.
I just wanted to add one person of the long list of people who I think is worth mentioning, and she's very modest. She's already left, but is Nina Mont, who promoted to be director of special education. And I know that meant a lot to parents of special education that we now have a director. And I know that Nina has worked incredibly hard and has exceeded actually what we asked for in terms of especially co-taught classes. So I just wanted to recognize her among the long list of people that were already mentioned. So ditto to all the other people as well.
I appreciate that. We have a very talented staff.
Okay, next is communications. This organization, do you have anybody?
I do not.
Okay. Sure. All right, now we're at the point of public comment on items that are not on the agenda. All right.
Oh, they wanted to come up with something? Yeah,
Both of these two are here. Okay, so got it. So John Scarborough and Rachel. Right.
Hello. So my name is John Scarborough. I'm a longtime Mountain View resident and have had students in Los Altos High School and one there currently. I realized that I'd like to give a presentation on the marching band and color guard of Los Altos High School because I realized that I wasn't in that when I was younger, and maybe other folks are not quite aware of what goes on, but it's a great program. And we have Rachel here who will probably pick up all the things that I'm going to miss. So I have a presentation of a movie that we'll watch after a moment. So I just wanted to point out that it's a very inclusive program. It's open to all. You don't even have to play an instrument. The kids will teach you how to play one if you don't know how to. We have had middle college students, and I believe we have Freestyle Academy students who have been there or at least have shown interest. And it's a safe space for many, including in the LGBTQ community. My son told me it was like a family away from family. And it teaches leadership, perseverance, stamina, teamwork, and musicianship of all things. So if you would play the movie. So this is the marching band. We had 49 people in this year. It starts off the week before school with band camp. That's the band room. Has lots of practice. If this was going to be proportional, the practice would take up 2/3 of the time. Walden West is an overnight thing they go to. They first get their music and they're practicing their moves, their coordination, how to get their instruments set up. Then they serve as pep band during the football games. They first come out, plain clothes, get practiced, stay in the bands, play motivating tunes. As they get better, they bring out their uniforms, practice some more, and then they're off into tournaments. This year we had 5 tournaments we went to. Part of going to tournaments is we get everything in the trucks, go there, set them up, and then more practice. So they practice from the time they get there and get their instruments out till the time they need to get ready to go. So the color guard and the marching band instrumentalists both practice. They head out onto the field. The parents there to push out the instruments along with the pit crew, and the show begins. So what they've been practicing for, they do their moves, they have the flags choreographed, the moves choreographed, the music. It's very strenuous, 15 minutes or so. And what I saw is they get better and better each time they do it. So do with the other bands, so it doesn't necessarily get easier to compete. So they get to the end of it, then come back and pack everything away. The adults help unpack that or undo the things, set up some supper, and then they have the award ceremonies. So we have the band on the later competitions, the whole band goes out, and we also had 7 seniors this year. So they were in leadership roles as well as many other of the kids. And at the end of the season, seemed like everybody was happy. And we had some of the folks go, well, we also went to the parade in Los Altos, as well as several of the kids and adults went to the feeder schools and talked to the upcoming students. We were hit pretty bad with COVID with very low numbers. And so we're still rebuilding, and looked like with the feeder schools at Crittenden, at least where I went to, they are rebounding. So hopefully this will be an even better program in the future. And here's Rachel to add things that I have forgotten.
Okay. Hi, I'm Rachel Coleslunt. I'm a 20-year resident of Mountain View and have a graduated son from Los Altos High School and one currently a sophomore. He came into marching band his freshman year, found his tribe. He loves it, as do all the students. They get really into it. They're very bonded, especially in their sectionals. And part of leadership is bringing in the new kids and making them feel part of their tribes. But it's also a community of parents as well. We support each other. If kids need rides or help out or need some place to go afterwards, they're always welcome at somebody's house. We bring them in and we treat them like they're all our family. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. As John said, it's a discipline. I consider it a sport. You know, it's not called the sports, but there's competition, there's athleticism, there's creativity, and they all do it while doing choreography and playing an instrument at the same time. I mean, try running a mile while blowing on a horn as loud as you possibly can so they can hear you in the cheap seats. So it's like really valuable to these students to have this as an after school activity. And I don't know, I think that's about everything, you know, just discipline, dedication, and feeling like you're part of something and building on that and creating leadership. You know, we've created a lot of leaders out of students who didn't necessarily think that they could be leaders when they came into high school. And they feel like they need somebody or somewhere to go. And marching band, color guard is like, we had 3 seniors join last year. Like they'd been in high school for 4 years. They're in their 4th year and they're just starting marching band and they still get integrated in. And they're like, wow, like, I didn't know this was here. And, you know, to have that and be able to go somewhere and feel included, no matter who you are, is just, it's been very important to the student body. So anyway, thank you for your support and hope we can continue having that for years to come.
Thank you for that reminder. Yeah.
Just add a clarifying comment or something along those lines. I was a band parent a long time ago. I was one of the guys loading the truck and unloading the truck at the competitions. Everything you said rang true. And it is a great event. It is a great activity for the students. Both my daughters really enjoyed their 4 years as band members. And all of their friends, they're still friends today. And that was more than 20 years ago. So thank you for your involvement.
Thank you. Okay, next, Mike Emmerich.
I feel like I should have brought a gift today for the retirement. But my name is Mike Emmerich. I live on Los Ninos Way in Los Altos. And as a resident north of Jordan behind the high school, we recently sent an email to the board today. And I'd like to formally request that the Board of Trustees keep the residents informed about the developments with respect to additional student parking at Los Altos High. Hopefully during the summer break, some improvements will be made. I realize that the construction is not totally completed. And what the plans are to increase the parking after construction is completed. After the 415 board meeting, we had no details, although we were hoping to have further details on the 2x2 meeting on May 6th, which was unfortunately canceled. So I'm just asking the board to please consider this request and keep the residents informed as to developments. The student parking needs to be increased from the current amount of 62. And by the way, it's very underutilized at this time. They keep on parking on our streets and it does cause a traffic nightmare. You know, and I realize it's only 20 minutes in the morning and in the afternoon, but it is also during brunch, lunch, and several times during the day. And I wish we could show you videos of it because it's quite startling. So one of the things I did add to the email that I sent was the report from Stephen Zahn regarding that. And I hope that helps you realize what we're facing on this on a day-to-day basis. Fortunately, we're going to get a 3-month break, but you know, we'll continue once the school starts in the fall. Thank you.
Can I just ask a clarifying
question?
That I think if you could just let the board know what was the outcome of the Clean Streets Committee?
So my wife sent an email to Stephen today, and he replied, at this time, staff will not bring up this item back unless directed by Complete Streets. commission, or the city council. Like always, you do have the right to request that this matter be brought back to the Complete Streets Commission or request the city council to bring the matter up. So this was completely denied. It wasn't going to go further.
So just to clarify, so what happened at the Complete Street Commission is that the proposal that was given by the city council, Stephen Son,
Right.
was essentially rejected.
The 1 block radius.
The 1 block radius of no parking.
Correct.
Was rejected.
Correct.
And they're not going to bring it forward.
Unless we bring it up to city council and ask for it again. But quite frankly, there were a couple of residents that were apprehensive about having that. Because what that meant is there's no parking between the hours. Stephen proposed from 8 to noon. And we said, well, that doesn't make sense because the students are pretty smart. They know after lunch they can park closer to the school because after lunch is like 12:30, 12:54, and so on. So we asked for 8 to 2, but it was basically rejected.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, that's all the public comment. All right, on to 16.0 consolidated motion. Do I have a motion? Or anybody wants to pull any of the items?
I just want to say this is the greatest consolidated.
Yeah.
I know, it's true.
Yes. So,
I had nothing to pull, so I approve the motion as presented.
Do I have a second?
second.
Okay, so moved by Phil, second by Esme to approve 16.2 to 16.40. Any comments or questions? All right, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Okay. On to 18.0 business action. So resolution 23-24-57 declaration of need for fully qualified educators. So
This is our annual resolution that allows us, if needed, to use emergency credentials.
great. Okay, thanks. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
And a second. Okay, moved by Dita, seconded by Phil. Any comments, questions? All right, all those in favor? Okay, the motion passes 4-0 to approve resolution 23-24-57. All right, so next is the public hearing disclosure of collective bargaining agreement. So I'm going to open the public hearing. It is now 8:35 p.m. So the public hearing is now open. Is there any comments about the collective bargaining agreement? Public? No comments, so I'm going to close the public hearing and reopen the regular board meeting. So can I get a motion on the approval of the proposed tentative agreement with the California School Employee Association and the district?
Second.
Moved by Phil, second by Dita. All those in favor? Oh, abstain. So the motion passes 3-0 with one abstention from Esme. All right, next we're going to open the public hearing on the proposed 2024-25 salary schedule adjustment and calibrations for CSEA, DTA, and unrepresented. Any comments from the public? Not seeing any, so I'm going to close the public hearing and I'm going to open the regular school board meeting again. And so here we have the action to approve the proposed 2024-25 salary schedule adjustments and calibration for CSEA, DTA, and unrepresented. Motion by Dita, second by Phil. All those in favor? Okay, the motion passes 3-0 with one abstention. All right, on to the Measure E bond program budget update. So Mike.
Well, good evening. And so we want to bring forward to you the latest Measure E bond project, which is the Mountain View High School classroom expansion project as well as modernization. So we will jump right in after all the nice acknowledgements and a break for a little reception. This is truly like one of those business items of the meeting. And so we had prepared this slide deck about a month ago in anticipation of possibly discussing this in an earlier board meeting in May. So some of the numbers later on, we have even refined in a spreadsheet that has been shared with the board via email previously. But wanted to chat briefly and remind us all of the scope of this expansion project and modernization, especially how it was worded in the facilities master plan. So this project modernizes 40 classrooms at Mountain View High School in the 100, 200, 300, and 400 wings. And that includes expanding 24 of those 40 classrooms. If you've been in them, they are a little under 720 square feet. And this would expand them. It encloses the breezeways in between those wings to about 920 square feet. And the original language of the master plan, which we did not include here, but speaks to improving all teaching spaces to meet the education specifications and facility assessment needs. That's architect talk for the facilities assessment, facilities master plan. What is the needs of the program and the educational program of the school? And specific to that was replace, enlarge, or compensate for existing undersized classrooms. So I just remind us of this has been a priority since the beginning of the bond program, even when we were going out, asking the voters to approve Measure E. This was a need of, in particular, Mountain View High School, given the size of those rooms. The original scope included heating, ventilation, air conditioning, roofing, exterior paint, accessibility improvements, interior upgrades, lighting, ceiling tiles, window shades, flooring, paint, things like that. And if you want an example of what a finished modernized room at Mountain View looks like, we could take a tour of the 500 wing, because you'll see in a moment, we actually flipped the order of these projects into the 500 wing first, and I'll explain why in a moment. But you can see what new windows, new siding, new interior LED lighting looks like. Because the intent of the program was to touch almost every single classroom. I say almost every single because the Measure A bond in 2010 got us 12 new classrooms in each campus. So those rooms are newer and don't need as much attention in that regard. But the rest of the rooms, save for a late 1990s facilities bond, haven't been touched in 60 years they've been in existence.
This isn't the complete list, right? This isn't the complete list, right?
Of this the scope of this project,
So
or
the original scope that when we voted on, because when
of all the projects, no, it's not. This,
well, I'm just saying
okay.
from the original scope, because when we originally did it, right?
Yeah.
Our budget was a little less, with a lot less
Yep.
than what we ended up voting on.
Yes.
And we ended up voting on a larger budget because we wanted to do other things, including sports facilities, and
Yeah.
other items that came on that list.
On
And
the
then
master plan.
then we voted to increase the budget
Yeah.
from what we originally were thinking about discussing. And we increased that budget
Yeah.
to basically include other things we wanted to do. And we got basically, we felt the community was going to, approve a larger
Support that.
budget, be able to take on some more items, not just these items, but
Correct.
including, student unions and upgrading sports facilities and looking at other items
Yes.
as well. So I just want to make sure that
Sure.
the original scope included
Oh.
more than just this.
Yes.
This was maybe that our first go at it, but not not the 300 million.
Correct.
That we
Yeah.
approved.
Thank you for clarifying. This is specific to the line item of all the Measure E projects, just the Mountain View classroom expansion. Yes. Yeah.
No, I-
And within that, all those items, there was a budget. It was a little more than 295.
I remember.
We
all those
shoehorned some of those
discussions.
projects into 295, and we've done a lot of great projects that we can look at, and that's not part of this presentation. And so we embarked upon this, and the challenge today is just the cost of this project has continued to escalate, and we have the item after this presentation is awarding the bids, if the board so desires, for this expansion project. And why we're talking about budget now is with those bids, which were very competitive, meaning we had multiple contractors and trades with each of those trades packages. Given the current construction costs from those bids, the budget now we are asking for is $27.75 million. And so what is contributing to that? And that's what this slide is intended to help explain. So one of those items is significant cost escalation. The original budgets and historical trending of construction costs in the San Francisco Bay Area has a trend line, and this chart helps, around 5%. There's an annotated version, a paper copy that is at the dais, and there's some for the community if they want to look at the table. But the annotated version actually marks different events in Measure E, from when the bond was passed to when we had the master plan, which I just said in reverse order, when we had interim housing, when we did the classroom projects, when we did student services buildings. And it really shows, and I'll point over here, but the steep increase in those costs from what this trajectory would be is the loss in purchasing power of those funds in the more recent years as construction costs in the Bay Area have escalated at a much faster rate than anyone anticipated. Factors, a lot of that's the labor costs, some of it is material costs. And so all districts, all construction entities are grappling with this right now. And so that's a significant driver. I'm going to go back a slide into what's driving this cost much higher, right? So that's one factor. 53% since the start of Measure E construction 2019, just to put a specific number on it. An additional element that's increasing the cost here is the Division of State Architect, or DSA, looks at these buildings, look at the age of them, and required the district to do additional testing. The acronym is EDCR, and I'm going to look at the architect team because I forgot what that stands for. But basically, we were required to drill into the concrete foundation, the concrete masonry pillars, and take core samples of that, get it tested to verify what were the materials used when it was originally constructed. Does that meet certain requirements for seismic code? And it wasn't just take it in one spot. If you walk Mountain View High School campus, there are the concrete masonry pillars, we used to call them bunkers there, on either side of a four-pod of classroom. So this is done multiple times. And so that was an additional cost just to do the testing. Plus, we had to saw cut concrete, and we couldn't just do this in the middle of school days. It's very disruptive. So there was delays in that. This project originally was supposed to start last summer of 2023. And our project timeline, because this impacted the most classrooms, we were going to do 100, 200 wing, then 300, 400 wing, and finish with the 500 wing. As the architect team was working with DSA and they had more and more questions and required more and more evidence based upon that testing, we realized this project was not going to get started in the summer of 2023. So we did a pivot and flipped it to take advantage of opportunity to do the 500 wing, which was at the end of this order of 100 through 500 wings this past school year. But that delay for all this testing and to revise the plans per DSA, causes a year of delay in schedule. And the value of money as cost escalation happens, we're now bidding it a year later than we originally planned. Just by the nature of being a year later, it's more expensive given that chart we saw on this slide. So that's another factor that was beyond our control because this is DSA questions they have. There was additional scope in the project. The layout of these rooms have IDF closets. That's where all the network cables and switches for those wings occur. Right now, they're in a corner of a classroom, so it creates kind of this odd L-shaped room that remains. When we expanded in the breezeways, had we left those closets where they are, you'd have this rectangular closet in the middle of a classroom, creating almost a U-shaped usable space that would make certain parts of the classroom blocked off, blind spots for a teacher, but also students looking at the whiteboard. And so we're going to touch these rooms and make them last for another 60 years. The concept was to relocate those IDF closets, one per wing, into the middle and utilize that concrete masonry unit pillars and put them centrally there. So that was additional scope beyond what was in the original master plan, and there's a cost that comes with that. DSA again looks at these buildings and the age of them and says, oh, you need to add fire sprinkler systems to this, right? That was not the original scope because they were up to current code at the time, but doing that as an additional requirement. And then these buildings are seismically safe, but the code keeps changing and adjusting and becoming more and ever more current. And so there are additional seismic improvements needed for this project. So I'm maybe going on too long, but kind of paint the picture of what has caused a lot of these costs to adjust. Some of it's scope, some of it's just required testing and requirements by DSA. But I do want to show on the slide the most currently approved budget for this project, which was included about a year ago in a Measure E budget update, was 18.75 million. And that's all in. That's construction costs, it's the soft costs, so architect, construction management, DSA fees, project contingency of 5%, not overall program, but just the specific project. And with that, and I'm not listing all the remaining projects, that's a future slide, there's about 19 million left in the overall Measure E program contingency. And so what we're showing here is if we approve a revised budget of 9 million more, that 9 million comes out of program contingency, leaving roughly $10 million left in that program contingency. Again, we have some more refined numbers that is in that spreadsheet I referenced. And you just didn't get a chance to update this.
The program contingency includes the project contingency plus the overall program?
No, they're separate. So the project contingency is included up in this 27.75 million. So within that is a 5% budget number for, hey, we're gonna get in there, especially with modernization. There's gonna be change orders. There's gonna be unforeseen conditions. So this program level, I'll quote Rick Kramer, that is for bid day surprises, right? So costs escalate, projects get more expensive. You show up on bid day and the bids are higher than maybe the initial estimate, or as you know, what's happening here as we go along in the program, cost escalation up 53%. It helps cover some of those costs. So at the beginning of the program, that program contingency for all Measure E was larger. As we've gone through the program and spent about 230 million or so at this point. I'm just gonna check my notes. Yep, 235 million, right? The remaining projects, the number gets smaller, the total value of them is smaller. And so that program contingency is available to help offset some of those costs. So that's this project specifically. But of course, what myself, the construction management team, the architect team is very mindful of is this is the last Measure E project. And so we have several more. The ones, these first four are what we'd say in design. So in design means the architects have submitted various detailed plans. Some of these have already been submitted to DSA for review. That's how far along we are with those plans. And it's showing this was, again, about a month ago. And these numbers are much more updated. And I will show you there are much larger changes we expect we will need for these projects. Yet we will still have program money available to cover them. But these are the most currently approved budget, this middle column, and then at least a month ago, some more conservative, well, lower estimated changes. That spreadsheet's been shared with you actually has more updated numbers that show those to be more significant. And then, so that gets you through this Los Altos Music Building, right? So this is cafeteria at Mountain View, converting into performing arts is that first topic. Then Packard Hall renovations, roofing, windows, HVAC. Los Altos cafeteria originally was just renovating it, but now we've added expanding it, in part to keep it on par with Mountain View High School, which has a new kitchen as part of their student services building. And when we started this program, there was no such thing as universal meals. So we served like 300 meals a day, and now we're serving 1,100 lunches. And so the need for more space has become part of that need that didn't exist in 2018. So the projects that we haven't even started designing yet are the gyms, existing gyms, and the libraries at both campuses. And that's why there's really no adjustment to the numbers on the right, because we haven't even gotten a design. So we have a budget number that was original from the 2018 bond program. But because we haven't gotten the details yet, we haven't even taken a stab at adjusting those numbers yet, because there's opportunity to change that scope or to adjust it or to move things around and delay, for example, library projects and use district maintenance money for roofing, HVAC, and reallocate the dollars in the gyms, but still cover what's needed, but maybe do a lesser degree, a smaller scope for the libraries, is just one example.
So what's the average increase per project?
I'd have to calculate that number for you. I don't have it.
It looks like a minimum of 25% to a maximum of at least 100%.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
I mean, the more current number, even for Packard Hall, which is minimal, is about 2.2 million, which is a doubling. The cafeteria, looking at the new numbers, is closer to double.
Yeah, so I mean, that 26 million is not really 26 million. That's going to be, maybe we're talking, could be double that, could be, at least maybe 50% of that more, right?
It could. I can reference the more updated numbers here.
We can subtract those numbers, but whatever that is, right?
Yeah. So, so what you're getting at is, hey, what are these costs going to change by, and is there program money available to cover it?
I mean, it sounds like we can assume that, right? I mean, that's the track record we're on. At least, I don't think.
And yes, and part of managing it then going forward is, what are the funds available, what's left, and designing to the budget.
That's the part that's tough
to
swallow, right? Because like I started in the beginning, and I think we need to be accurate, right? I mean, there was more programs than just what you had listed on that slide. What was part of the original budget that we're solving for? It included all these programs, and we had a master plan which included gyms, which included the library, included all the expansion classrooms we had on the first slide. Too, right? It included those, those items. That was part of it.
And we have added scope, like the original scope of a lot of the classroom modernization did not include windows, right? It was identified in the facilities assessment, but wasn't part of the original scope of the projects themselves in terms of the budget. But as we got into design and looking at, what do those classrooms need, there was a collective decision that, hey, to do this and leave the windows out, it was kind of incongruent with overall outcome we wanted. So we've added that. So there has been, additional scope added as we've gone forward. And I was even pulled out a note from the master plan, the slide that talks about existing classrooms. And there's a note at the end, these potential classroom enlargements require further structural analysis. It's just one sentence in the master plan. And yet, prior slide shows how significant some of that was.
That's the due diligence we want to see is, do we increase the scope with risking we don't do these other line items, right? These other projects that we originally wanted to do, right? That's the decision.
Yeah.
And, have to look at, right?
And let me add, and I apologize, it's covered by the closed captioning. What is included in this program contingency is the $5 million we've already received reimbursement from the state SFP school facility program. What's not in here is the remaining 25 million of eligibility, a big chunk of which we have submitted and are in line for. So we have that proof of concept that the first amount of money, that 5 million we've received and is in the district funds, and I think it's important just to keep that all in mind. Now, what we do with it, what's it held in reserve for, I think is important to have a conversation about. But there is that element of funds that it's more a question of if, not, I'm sorry, of when they will come, not if, right? Because we have submitted all that paperwork for it, and some of those projects are actually getting close to being in the front of the line and eligible for that. And that's where I printed out a copy, but the spreadsheet actually looks at total funds available. I'm sorry, it's not for you guys. I can print out copies for you. It's been shared electronically per that request, but looks at, if the current projects, including the more revised estimates, were approved and we acted on, how much funds are available. It's closer to 14 million to cover $13.35 million worth of projects. So it includes a little bit more in the program contingency, because what that spreadsheet has is there are budgets there are projects originally on Measure E that we haven't fully closed out. So it's still carrying the full budget amount, but there is some savings and money to recapture to put towards the bottom line number. And so that is reflected in that overall Measure E chart that was shared with you. But the reality is, to do these projects makes the remaining 4. I mean, we've done everything else on the list, everything above it, the fields, the classrooms, the student unions, many of those we've completed, and that's the good news. We did that before that significant cost escalation. So we're very fortunate to not be talking about those projects now. But it means the funds available for those remaining 4 items do get tighter, and maybe we look at sticking to that scope. Maybe it looks at, hey, what other sources of district funds do we have? Is it, looking at annual maintenance money, which we're required to spend 3%, and what portion of that do we want to assign to these projects? We do have developer fees available to us that can help with expansion of certain adding classroom capacity, so that could help offset part of the expansion project. So
do you think, are we at risk right now? Where would you assess maybe the risk of completing all these projects right now? And I know, so let me ask that question first, and then because I know we had transferred there was a budget we had for future expansion.
Future additional classrooms.
Future additional
Correct.
classrooms. We voted to basically, because of the increase in cost for the early project, mainly the expansion of classrooms, to use that budget, basically move some of those dollars to pay for that.
Correct.
So I guess one is what's the risk of completing these existing projects, and would we still have any dollars remaining for potential to add additional classrooms like we did in the budget?
Yeah. So if there was a need to build the 18 additional classrooms, which is what it got adjusted to, because 2 of those rooms we're building at Los Altos currently, we would need the state SFP money to do so.
Okay,
so that money, that would be we need to wait for those funds to come in to do construct 18 new classrooms. If that.
Wait for which money to come?
The state SFP money.
The SFP.
Yeah, that 25 million.
25 million. Okay, can do that. But do we need that 25 million, any of that 25 to complete these projects? Because it seems like because the budget, because we assume, like you said, at least a 50% increase.
Sure.
Than what these amounts
are. If you doubled each of these, no, we wouldn't be able to complete all of these with the existing funds available if you doubled those current numbers. Just a rough calculation. Right. But you asked for a risk. I'm trying to quantify that risk. It's hard to quantify that, but I do think it's wise, knowing what we know about construction costs and where the graph is going.
Some amount of risk, right? That's right. Because it seems like it's been going up every project, right?
Yeah, the recent projects and we're really moving the phase from new construction, which is, hey, we build from the ground up and into the modernization phase, and we've seen that both cost escalation at 53%, but also scope and what's needed to renovate and modernize many of those rooms. The costs have increased, and we're in the middle of it at Los Altos, right? We're talking about Mountain View expansion because that's the project that we got DSA approval on a little over about a week ago, and we're prepared to start on if approved. But Los Altos, we're halfway through their facility repairs, right? So the 400, 500 wing is wrapping up this summer. We will move to the 200, 300 wing. But when we were presenting the board in April of 2023, that's what prompted that meeting, is that those costs were higher. And that, again, was a modernization project.
So sorry for the interruption. I was trying to look at your spreadsheet very carefully and trying to find it. So I think my main concern actually is not only the hockey stick of construction, but also we're now moving into modernization, which means that DSA, I feel like the yardstick for what DSA wants has moved. For example, we had to do that soil sample. So I think that's also unpredictable because they can change their regulations, as they see fit. So the fact that we got approval for this particular project I don't feel confident that the next project that we ask for, that they won't ask for more things for that project because there won't be some new regulation that they'll require because of modernization and because those classrooms, as you've mentioned, are old. So
is that, I mean, maybe you want to ask, is that true, or you want to ask them if that's what his take is on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, DSA's interpretation or application of building code and those changes, it can be fluid, and that's where we work with our architect team at QKA to understand what those are, and you know, we go by what the current code is, right? So it's hard to anticipate what they might change, but I hear what you're saying.
For the modernization that Tito's talking about, that we will have new requirements.
I think the question, if I'm hearing correctly, is, hey, some of the same investigative work that we're being asked to do on the classroom expansion and sample and bring it up to code, is that same level of work going to be needed on the gym and or library? Is that
or something similar in cost that we did not anticipate?
You know, and I'm looking towards Eddie from QK over there because he's the one that works with TSA, but I'll attempt to answer it. And I'm going to answer it in explaining that one of the unique challenges of the classroom expansion is that you're changing the shell of those buildings. You're changing the infrastructure of the walls, the earthquake preparedness, because you're really modifying the building, right? When we demolished part of the 200 and 300 wing to make room for student services, at that time, DSA said, great, you've now changed the envelope of the 200 and 300 wings. So now we actually created, we took out some windows and made more solid walls along part of that building because it changes the structural integrity. How it moves in an earthquake or wind or things like that changes because we're changing the length of it. So in buildings where you're changing the nature of the building and walls, more of this comes up. You know, I'd have to defer. I can ask Eddie to answer later about in the gym, if you're keeping the same footprint and not removing shear walls or interior walls that are structural integrity of it, there's probably less risk of triggering some of that seismic improvement because you're not changing the configuration of it. You know, so I don't know how I'm doing, Eddie, with that answer, but you know.
So the fact
he's
that
nodding,
it's,
so a little bit.
I mean, because I know the gym is really old.
Yeah, it's original.
So I don't
vintage,
know.
some might call
so
it.
how much? I just don't know how seismically, you know, according to DSA, how much seismically it would cost.
Yeah.
To what that additional price tag would be, in addition to the 3.52 million. Do you have a estimate for that?
I could get one. I don't at this time. No. And I mean, one of the questions I would ask, we'll ask, you know, the QKA team is, would the EDCR, the testing we had to do on the classroom project, be required on this project, or was that unique to the expansion because we were expanding into breezeways and we were saying, hey, this is used as, you know, certain structural support, versus the Los Altos gym, and it's a smaller price tag because it's actually smaller square footage. In Mountain View, it's the whole main gym and small gym and inner, you know, room space in between. So it's a per square footage number that was addressed to this. And at the time, there was talk of how would the small gym be used and what's it going to be converted to, and so various, you know, ideas about that.
But I would have expected that. I mean, it did raise up a good point.
Yeah.
The seismic updates, but I would have expected that be in the original budget, that they would have assumed that, okay, we're touching a very old vintage building, that there are going to be updates that are going to be necessary, right, to meet today's code, current code. So that should have been in the original budget to say, okay, if we touch this, then we're going to have to do all these other code improvements.
Yeah. So to a certain degree, but as example back with this classroom expansion, and I'm going to phone my friend now, had we submitted that plan in 2021, we wouldn't have had to do the EDCR testing as late as what, 2022? Right. So and I don't know all the workings of DSA, right? But sometimes it's, hey, we're going to apply this code. Oh, this is the interpretation, and now, and so it's hard to anticipate in that regard. So some, yes, but again, even the order of when we do the projects, we would have avoided this year-long delay. The EDCR required testing had it been submitted, and we were doing this project earlier in the bond program, and we did it later for very good reasons. So that's a little bit of what makes this a challenge with DSA. The other part that DSA makes it challenging is there's certain cost threshold that basically their intent is just demolish old buildings and build new ones, right? And so let's make a disincentive to remodel old buildings. We are doing the classroom expansion, 40 classrooms. It's about $700 per square foot. Am I getting that right around, right? To build new classrooms is over $1,000 a square foot. It's more like, I don't know, what are we, $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 a square foot these days. So although it's expensive, part of it is still modernizing existing rooms. It's still cheaper than new ones, and it's greener in the sense of you're not disposing of a lot of existing building waste. You're using what's there. The bones of those buildings are good. DSA is it's designed to make sure these buildings, last for many, many years. And I often say, if there's ever a big earthquake, I want to be in one of our new buildings, because I've seen how deep in the ground those pillars go and all the site expansion joints they have in there. So there's always with DSA, there's a little bit of unknown. But that's why we just have to work together as a team, the construction management and architects to navigate and guide that. And I think the opportunity we have is there's projects remaining on our list. There's funds to do it. There's good and purposeful concern about the remaining projects and what can we do in those projects and what's the scope. The easiest answer is we just designed the budget, right? And we're very strict with here's what the budget is. And, we can do as much as we can get into that budget. And if there's scope that goes beyond it, we maybe have to come back to that later. But we've evaluated that project to project. The Los Altos Music Building, for example, the original master plan said we want to add square footage for ensemble and storage space. And we went in and looked at that building, and DSA said, well, to expand it, again, you're changing the envelope of that building. It was going to be like upwards of over $1 million of seismic reinforcement in that building, of already a seismically safe building, but $1 million underground you would never see would have no impact on what we saw earlier about marching band and color guard and students' ability to play music, simply because they were requiring, it's an opportunity to say, oh, you need to upgrade this. And so we said, hey, the goal was more storage and more ensemble space. Let's use the existing structure and room layout to be more efficient with storage, clear out some existing ensemble space that have been used as storage, and let's put that $1 million towards actually benefiting students and staff who use it rather than expanding it and blowing the budget on that. So that's just an example where we look at design and the intent, we get feedback from DSA, change course, but still trying to achieve the goals of the project.
I just have one other question, which is, we're moving on to gyms, and are gyms treated differently seismically than classrooms?
I don't know. No, I'm getting a no answer from the architect. No, they look at students are occupying them. They need to be just the same.
So we expect the same. Okay, thank you.
I think I had another slide, but that might be the end. Maybe the slide deck is telling you to stop. So anyway, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Clarify, and this was on the spreadsheet.
Yep.
Just the funds, the actual cost to date, what has that covered?
Yes, so that's the actual cost for the expansion project, correct? Yes. So that covers, in broad scopes, it covers fees paid to the architect thus far, the construction management firm, the EDCR testing, so all that course sample, including geotechnical reports and some DSA fees. So it's mostly those what we call soft costs, the program management, design fees to get us to this point.
Any other questions? Okay, so we do have a public comment on this, so I'd like to invite Fiona Walter.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. So I think it's on. Is it on? Are we good? Okay, all right. Apologies for missing the farewell to Nellie. I'm going to take 15 seconds. I too was on the team who hired Dr. Nellie, and I was after Sunday as board president as we brought students back to school during COVID. 16 years as a school board member, 5 superintendents, my favorite superintendent on the planet. So.
For a second, I think, yeah, so I think we're all fighting for who, you know.
I know, and agree with all the top 10s and all the kind words. Okay, so having blown 30 of my seconds, I wanted to come tonight because this piece of the bond is near and dear to me. And the 3 of us who were here when we were doing the master plan, we had ideas from all over the community and what could we use our money on and what could we do? This idea came from the teachers. This came from our teachers saying we need more space. We have seniors in high school in kindergarten classrooms. And I would love to figure out a way to do this. I know that the money is tight. I know that the 25 it's a when, not an if, but we don't know when, coming from the state. I would love to figure out how to do this. This one's really important. It really matters to our teachers. It really matters to the educational setting. And it was grassroots. It came from our teachers. It came from a session that said, hey, you know what, if we did this, these were actually designed for that. So I just want to make a plug to say, I know it's tight and I know there are big decisions ahead and we have other things on our list. And if we end up saying, okay, well, what's below the line temporarily so that we can get this done? This one really matters. It really came from our teachers. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Board, any question? I guess, Theta, you're on the facilities committee, right? So any insight you'd like to give us on conversations around the budget?
Yes, I think my questions to Mike were based on my experience with DSA and kind of I've only been there since November, but among the first meetings was this bill for a soil sample. So basically I asked a lot of questions about that, and there have been some curveballs thrown by DSA, and I think that will continue to happen as we move into this phase of modernizing buildings as opposed to building new building. I support actually modernizing as opposed to ripping things down. But I think from DSA's point of view, I agree with what Mike has said, that their viewpoint is they look at modernization a lot more closely. They have regulations that kick in at certain times and are as you know, due to COVID, our schedule got pushed. So that has also resulted in not only increased costs, but also then new regulations have kicked in. So I hope we can continue to move at the pace that we have been, and we won't be subject to more DSA regulations. But I think really we also have the issue now of even though the economy is not doing as well, I think as far as school construction, actually there's a lot of school construction going on. So so I think it's a question of whether or not we have more contractors coming on who are a product of who are not building other types of buildings versus but who are willing to deal with DSA. So that is sort of a subspecialty, right? So it's a question of if those contractors are willing to come on board. And that is a big unknown, whether they will come and, we'll get new bids, right? So if we get new bids, then there's a possibility we might have lower costs. We have the same people who are also building 10 other districts in the Bay Area, then we'll probably have higher bids because they can charge. So I think to me, it's sort of like trying to predict where interest rates will go or the economy will go. It's unknown. And I do feel that we need to make sure that we're making sure that DSA approves our projects beforehand so that we're not, but we're following ed code. That's the only other thing that I have to say.
So,
but my understanding, Mike, I just want to confirm that these projects have received DSA approval that we're accepting bids on tonight.
Yes.
Okay.
Bids are for a single project, Mountain View High School expansion, modernization, those we have TSC.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I understand the full budget here. Okay, so you're saying for the Mountain View High classroom, revise it to basically an increase of 9 million to 27.75, right?
Yes.
And then we have these other programs that we have here. So if I add up, and if you add up all these numbers, the 26.32 that you have, does that doesn't include the estimated changes?
Correct. That's the sum
on the right. So basically, we would need to add at minimum what you have there, which is another basically 2.5, 3.5 million to this number 26.32, right? That makes it 30. Let's make it 30 million.
And these numbers are low.
And those numbers are low. So we could assume probably maybe another 50%, 50% from that. If we assume that, it's another 15 million. So math is slow, and so that'll be around 72, 73 million.
That might be a little higher than
Is that higher than what?
the remaining funds we have to spend is 65 million. With the estimated cost, I think from when that slide deck was prepared, if you include classroom expansion as well as the other projects that are designed, which are the ones on there.
Right, which I have. That's what I added.
Combined with updated estimates is 51.2. So 65 million funds available, 51.2, and those are higher than what's on that chart to the right, but it's a little shared previously. So there will be about 14 million remaining for those remaining 4 projects, the 2 gyms and 2 libraries. So those numbers are a little bit different than what you have on the slide deck. Again, the slide deck is dated. It was prepared over a month ago, but that was what was included.
So the spreadsheet is what's up to date. Is that correct? So
That's 27.
do you have the spreadsheet? Because the spreadsheet is what's up to date. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but but I guess this is what I did. This is what I did is basically I'm adding 27.75, which is the expansion, right? And then 30 million is for the remaining projects, right? I just did 26.32 plus your current estimated change. I didn't include some of the other that you don't have numbers for. So that's 26.32 plus the items on the right. That's about 30 million, right, for that. So 30 plus 27, so that's where you get your 57.75. If for the 30 million, if I estimate about a 50% increase right from there, so another 15 million. Maybe that's too much. Maybe instead of that's only 10 million. I don't know. I don't know what the number is, but basically it's gonna be anywhere, let's say between 67 to 72 million total is what we need, what we would need, right, for the budget, roughly, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
for all the projects.
65,226,000 was remaining available.
And what's remaining is 65. So we're basically would be under budget.
Using the rough math.
We're using the rough math, but it's rough, but it sounds like it's it's definitely not unrealistic. So
our calculations are.
I mean, I think it's probably more realistic, and maybe hopefully maybe it's even maybe I'm under under assuming or something, you know, what it is. So so that just is the picture right now. But the budget that you have, you said for 62, that you said we have 62 remaining? 65 remaining. 65, and that did not include the 25 remaining from getting from, it does not include that. Okay, so that okay, so basically.
5 million we've already received, but not the 25 million.
Right, includes that, but doesn't include the 25. Okay, so basically so that's basically 90 million that we have there. Okay, so we have 90. So we have to the 90 million. Okay, I understood. Okay, I think I understand. This maybe I was the last one to get this. So now you saw how my brain is thinking. Everybody got a view of that. So it's already there. Got it. All right, catching up here.
It might be helpful to explain the process for the 25 million reimbursement.
Yeah, I mean, the 25 million we don't have yet.
The timeline, the process.
Right.
Yeah.
So right now, we're being asked one question. Do we approve this revised budget or not? Right. Well, what alternatives here? If we don't approve it, we don't get the extra classroom space. I think we heard from Fiona, and we all agree, those of us who were around at the time, that was a very important thing to do. So I think we have really no choice but to bite the bullet and get the extra classroom space. What we do going forward, though, we need to start thinking about now, because there are trade-offs that we can make. We don't have to have all the cookies in the jar. Maybe we have to let some of them go for some other project. But it's clear that if this grant keeps going on that last slope, every minute we wait costs more money. So I think we need to approve this now and at least get the classroom started.
I think we always have a choice. So it's one thing. I think we have a choice. I mean, and that's fine. I just want to make sure I understand the full picture, though, in terms of the overall budget. So that's why I wanted to make sure I understood that.
I need
So,
two other just comment or one question. Is the 25 like secured that we will? It's just a matter of when.
So
but the amount
I would
is
use the word secure. So
secured. Well, okay.
So of that 25 million, I'll have to get you the number has been submitted for and has been processed by Office of School Construction, right? Because that's a subset of that 25 million. So 25 million is based on calculation based on our eligibility. Sorry, I don't have the microphone in front of me. And it's based upon enrollment and classroom capacity. And the state updates our eligibility at the time, not when we submitted it, but the time the application is reviewed. So that, is different than what our eligibility is now. It's when that application is reviewed, what's our enrollment, what's our classroom capacity. And that number does change.
does it get affected by the state budget? I mean, I know the state budget had to get revised.
So
how does this affect?
Yeah, the actual allocation and disbursement of funds is affected by the state budget or a statewide facility bond to fund the programs in your school districts. So the actual cash and money is impacted by the state budget or a statewide facilities bond. So the eligibility is separate. When you actually get the money, it's tied to when the state has money to distribute.
Oh, I see. So we'll eventually get the money, but it's just a matter of when. It could come in multiple years if they don't have the budget for it. But we would eventually get that money.
Yeah,
I see.
And I failed to mention earlier, we have a consultant we're working with that helps us submit these applications. This classroom expansion project and modernization has potential to capture additional eligibility. So there's a potential for additional state funds coming back for that. But again, It depends upon the eligibility, it depends on how many housing developments might start between now and when the application is reviewed, but the potential, we keep talking about 25 million, there is some potential for more. And that is a meeting we have, a Zoom meeting with our consultant. We did some analysis looking at this additional project, because we are taking classrooms that we don't count for their overall capacity, we are expanding them and bringing them up to the standard that the CBE recognizes as close to a standard classroom size.
The second thing I was just going to say, I do remember in conversations probably a year ago or even before on the facilities committee, looking at this list, hearing about the music, was it the music room or the music building? And I do think the next conversation is what do we need? What's the order of prioritization on any of these other things? And so we did have that conversation. I think we need to bring that back. Because I do remember you also like emphasizing the same sort of spirit of what we're hearing from Phil and Fiona, that the additional classrooms were really critical to the project.
Yeah, and I would second that just from personal experience as a parent whose daughter went to Los Altos High School when it was very overcrowded. It was so overcrowded that the weight rooms were being used as classrooms, which is an equity issue, and it affected students' mental health to be so crowded together. So I think it's really important, not just for our programming, but also for students. After all, we are here for students, that we have adequate classroom space and we have enough space. I think this new CDE requirement is not just about packing more students in, but ensuring that students have a healthy and safe and an inclusive environment to be in. It gives teachers a lot more flexibility as to how they can arrange their classroom, and allows them to break up into groups and many other things that I think contribute to students' academic and social and emotional well-being.
I want to be sure I understand something here. So let us say we're eligible for $23 million. Yeah. Right, today's money, $23 million. So the state agrees with that. And they say, yes, MVLA, you're worth 23, we owe you 23 million. We will pay you this 23 million in 2055. Do we get 23 million in 2055? Because that's not the same purchasing power as 23 million in 2024. Is that what they do?
Yes, I believe that is correct. It's $8 and with together. Yeah.
I would love to lend money at that rate.
Yes. The state has many tools at their disposal that the rest of us have access to.
So if I do it, I'm a loan shark.
Okay, so I think we all understand the vote. So basically, this is a vote to approve the revised budget of $27.75 million for the Mountain View High School expansion project, using available program contingency funds to cover the current budget shortfall. So moved by Phil.
Second.
Second by Theta. All those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. All right, on to the next item.
The next item is to spend the money.
And to spend the money, exactly, amended award bids. All right, so is there a presentation?
No, as Phil mentioned, it follows.
It follows exactly for that. So I just wanted to make sure if there was no. Okay. All right.
Motion.
All right. So moved by Theta, second by Phil, to approve award bids for the Mountain View High School modernization in addition to classrooms of 100, 200, 300, 400 weeks projects. All those in favor? All right. Passes 4-0. All right, I think that brings us to board operations. All right, so board suggestions for future board meetings. How about a meeting in July? Does anybody want a meeting in July?
Friday.
Yep. No board, future board
We
meetings.
do have our end of year
Wrap up on Friday morning, 8 a.m. So yeah, I was gonna bring that up for next, for 19.3, but yeah, it's at next board meeting. So on to 19.2, Any last
None of this
communication
time.
correspondence?
Communicated very well tonight.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so date and time, place, next meeting, yes, Friday, this Friday, June 7th at 8 AM. And is it?
Alta Vista.
It's Alta Vista, right? It's at Alta
No,
Vista.
no, it's gonna be here, remember? Okay.
Oh, it's gonna be here. Okay, so it is at the district.
All right.
Where is it again?
It's gonna be Terry. We're gonna squeeze in there. It got moved.
Okay, just want to know where I should show up.
I updated it. Okay.
All right, and I guess we should do a recap on graduations. Let's have a quick recap on that. So Wednesday, we have Alta Vista, and that starts at 4:30, right? At Alta Vista. Right, so I'll be there, I think, Phil, you're not able to make it, right? So I think 4 of us at least, I think Catherine's gonna be there, right?
So it's
Four,
4:30.
we'll have a party,
and
yeah. Huh?
It's 4:30.
So doors open at 4, the ceremony will begin at 4:30.
Okay.
And we'll end under 6 minutes.
Okay.
Do we have seating or do we have to be there early?
We will have seating, but also we're gonna ask, just to make sure who's interested in what, as far as.
Okay, I'll be there.
No, not for.
Okay.
And then we have the adult graduation the same day on Wednesday, and I believe that's at 5:30.
Okay, well, it's 6 PM, so it's probably also doors open at 5.
Maybe doors open at 5:30
Starts at
and
6.
starts at 6. Okay, I'll confirm with Julie.
Mountain View.
That's a Mountain View.
Mountain View.
So I'll be there. Okay, all right. Okay. You're gonna be there? You said or no? You'll be. And then Mountain View High School and Los Altos High School graduations. Mountain View High School, so it's on Thursday, June 6th. What time is that? 6:30. So that's when, but when should the board members show up? By 15? And they should come, where should they be? Student Services Building, okay. All right, so, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's Ken.
And then Los Altos High School,
And we're gonna send an email to everyone who's coming with all the details, where to park, what time to show up, where to
got it,
be.
perfect, okay. So I don't, so Phil and I will be there at Los Altos High School, right?
What time are we supposed to?
That's what you said, 6 PM.
6 is when it starts.
Starts,
so
oh.
But I'll send you an email by tomorrow.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Just so you know. Okay, perfect. All right,
All right.
is that all?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. So.